Chinese President Xi Jinping returned home yesterday after completing his two-day state visit to Nepal. His visit was particularly significant with regard to forging major development agreements, along with understandings on long-term bilateral projects aimed at boosting the nation's development. The Chinese president also exhibited a warm gesture by emphasizing that Nepal and China relations has always been based on pure friendship and that both the sides should strengthen it further. Good morning, I'm Amit Packerel, and these are the top stories of this hour. Chinese President Xi Jinping wraps up his two-day state visit to Nepal, holds important political parleys prior to his departure. Nepal and China forged 4 agreements and memorandum of understandings on 14 different bilateral projects during Xi's visit. Much-touted Kathmandu railway tops the agenda. Syrian army and Kurdish militants agreed to retaliate the ongoing offensive by Turkey. Syria army to be deployed at the northern border of Turkey. And Belgium record 8th consecutive victory at the Euro qualifiers. Germany blank Estonia 3-0, Croatia and Wales settled for a 1-1 draw. Chinese President Xi Jinping returned to China yesterday afternoon after completing his two-day state visit to Nepal. Chinese President Xi spent about 21 hours in Nepal and returned home early yesterday afternoon. President Xi was given a grand farewell by government employees and the general public on his way from Hotel Solti, where he stayed at, to the Tribhuvan International Airport. President Vidya Devi Bhandari, Vice President Nanda Bahadur Pun, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and ministers visited the airport to bid farewell to Chinese President Xi. The Nepal army gave a guard of honor to President Xi before his departure. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping held important political parleys before wrapping up his two-day state visit to Nepal. President Xi held separate meetings with leaders of ruling Nepal Communist Party and the main opposition Nepali Congress prior to his departure. Meanwhile, in one-on-one meeting held between Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and the Chinese President, Prime Minister Oli expressed the government's commitment towards the One China policy and also pledged to clamp down on all kinds of anti-China activities in the country. In a meeting with the Secretariat members of the ruling party, Chinese President Xi stressed on the need of further refining the relations between the communist parties of both the countries. At the meeting, President Xi also emphasized that the ruling party should maintain integrity and discipline so as to win the people's confidence. The Chinese president also held a separate meeting with co-chairman of the ruling Nepal Communist Party, Pushpakamal Daha. In a meeting held with President of Nepali Congress, Sher Bahadur Deuba, President Xi clarified that Nepal would continue to enjoy the support of China irrespective of any party at the helm of the government. At the meeting, Chinese President Xi also invited Deuba to visit China. Nepal and China forged 4 agreements and memorandum of understandings on 14 different bilateral projects during Chinese President Xi Jinping's two-day visit to Nepal. After Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and Chinese President Xi Jinping led teams of the two countries held discussions. Various agreements and memorandum of understandings were signed yesterday. The papers were signed by the officials of the two countries at the presence of Chinese President Xi and Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. Agreements were reached in advanced feasibility study of the Kathmandu railway, construction of tunnelways, and the expansion of Ayurvedic treatment plant. Likewise, agreements were also reached in border management system, establishment of Confucius Institutes in universities, establishment of sisterhood relations between Kathmandu metropolitan city and Nanji city, as well as between Butwal and Xi'an city. Along with the agreements and memorandum of understandings reached, the two countries also signed 2 letters of exchange. Welcome back after the break. In the context of Chinese President Xi Jinping's Nepal visit, our correspondent Amar Singh Pradhan interviewed retired General Prem Singh Basnab, who shared with us his expertise of various aspects of Nepal-China relations. Here are the excerpts.
The Chinese president today wrapped up his two-day visit to Nepal. Incidentally, this visit had come after a gap of 23 years. How do you see the importance of this visit to Nepal economically and strategically?
Well, it's a very historical visit. Since many decades, Chinese President visited Nepal. It's good for Nepal and China as well, especially Chinese people, they don't know about Nepal. Very few politicians, some diplomats, they know about Nepal. The trend gets two folds. One is China wants its trade enhancement with South Asia. It's like a door to the South Asia, first of all. So China would like to get emphasis on the trend, but in fact, we Nepalese have to give emphasis on the road links. On the second fold, if you're talking about our trade deficit, of course, Nepal doesn't have any goods to be sold, to export. In present context, we'll be importing all the Chinese things, Chinese goods, enhancing Chinese trades.
Given that you are a visiting professor at Leshan University and Sichuan Normal University of China, how do you see people-to-people connection between Nepal and China, and how is that different between government-to-government connection between Nepal and China?
It's a very interesting. Chinese people, I told you before, they don't know Nepal. Neighbor, they say neighbor. First of all, the second barrier for people-to-people relations is language again. Language. It's very difficult, you know.
The present initiative taken by the Chinese president is viewed as Indo-Pacific strategy counter. So how do you see this scenario?
It's obvious. It's obvious for the Chinese people. Look at, again, you know, the era. I could remind you the Opium War launched by the British. But at that time, it wanted to contain Chinese economic enhancement. Similarly, this time, American strategy named as Indo-Pacific, trying to contain its economic, enhancement and force. Sure, it is obvious.
And lastly, Nepalese are elated by the visit of the Chinese president to Nepal, which happened after such a long time. And but the reciprocal is not true. And does this mean we expected too much from the visit of the Chinese president?
I support you because we are hoping too much. Because China knows about Nepal, our politician, our political reality. Sure, unfortunately, we are relying on foreigner goods, suffered. This is our weakness, national weaknesses. I hope we start from our homegrown need.
The top-notch leaders of the ruling and opposition parties have stressed on the need of cooperation in the days ahead. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli, co-chairman of Nepal Communist Party Puspa Kamal Dahal and president of Nepali Congress Sher Bahadur Deuba made the remark while attending a tea reception by the main opposition Nepali Congress yesterday evening. Speaking at the function, Prime Minister Oli said cooperation with Nepali Congress has continued for the past 45 years in line with attaining democracy in the country. Oli also said that both the ruling and opposition parties have maintained good relations, although having different political ideologies. Another chairman of the ruling Nepal Communist Party, Puspa Kamal Dahal, said that cooperation had been maintained with Nepali Congress in the past as well, and that it would continue in the coming days. Likewise, Nepali Congress President Sher Bahadur Deuba said that the party had always been organizing tea receptions for the sake of national reconciliation and stressed on the need of mutual cooperation for the country's development. Deuba added that he would soon embark on a visit to China, citing the personal invitation extended by the Chinese president. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked the residents of Kailali district what sort of problems have they been facing while going for foreign employment. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public Voice.
यहाँ अर्कै एग्रीमेन्ट अर्कै हुन्छ त्यहाँको एग्रीमेन्ट अर्कै हुन्छ एयरपोर्टमा त्यो फाल्न लाउँछ यहाँको एयरपोर्टमा सो गर्ने अर्कै हुन्छ त्यहाँको एयरपोर्टबाट एजेन्टहरु लिन आउँदाखेरि त्यो एग्रीमेन्ट देखाउनु पर्छ खान बस्न सम्पूर्ण कुरा टोटली चेन्जेस हुन्छ
कहिले तलब पनि नदिने साउहरूले धेरै काम गराएर थोरै
पारिश्रमिक दिने
श्रम अनुसारको तलब हामीलाई त्यहाँ मिलिरहेको छैन तलबै एकदमै कम मिलिरहेको हुन्छ र दोस्रो कुराहरू अब हामीले 12 देखि 15 घण्टासम्म हामीले त्यहाँ ड्युटी नौकरी पनि गर्नुपर्छ जुन भारत सरकारको 8 घण्टा हुन्छ
It's now time for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
And the question is, why have the private medical colleges refused to return the overcharged fees illegally collected from students? And options are A, prevalence of impunity, B, political cover, and C, lack of pressure. The voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Now the sports update.
Sports news.
Belgium registered their 8th consecutive victory at the Euro Cup qualifiers with yet another resounding victory over Kazakhstan. In another match, Germany blanked Estonia 3-0, while Wales and Croatia were locked at 1-0. In the match played at Kazakhstan home ground, Michy Batshuayi opened the scoring for the visiting Belgium side in the first half. Belgium doubled the lead early in the second half when Thomas Müller scored off a Eden Hazard pass. Belgium have already booked a place in the Euro Cup with all-win record. Likewise, in another Euro qualifiers, Germany thumped Estonia 3-0 with 3 second-half goals. Like Gundogan had a good match for Germany as he was instrumental in all the 3 goals. Gundogan scored in the 51st and 57th minute, while assisted in the 71st minute goal scored by Timo Werner. Meanwhile, Croatia and Wales were held for a 1-0 stalemate in another match under Euro qualifiers. Croatia took the lead early in the match through Nikola Velasic, while Gareth Bale cancelled the lead at the stroke of first half for Wales. It's time now for our special segment, Off the Beat.
Early marriage is still practiced among the marginalized Thami community of Kalinchok rural municipality in Dolghat district. In one of the remote places of the district, children drop out of schools to marry young due to lack of awareness. Samjana Thami was married at the age of 15. At the age of 17, she had become a mother. Sukmaya dropped out from grade 6, got married at 14, and is now a mother of 2. Sukmaya and Samjana are only representative cases among a vast majority of girl children who become brides in the rural municipality, which also has low social, economic and development index. Majority of these girls become mothers to 3 to 4 children before the government's legal age to marry. Economically backward, majority of the men from the Thami community go to Sikkim and Darjeeling of India to meet financial needs. The young mothers are left on their own. While the Thami community has broken away from the tradition of barring girls from going to school, the practice of early marriage and school dropout is still rampant in the community. A Koseli Ghar, which literally stands for a house of souvenirs, has lagged behind in Dang's Ghorahi in the absence of publicity. The facility was earlier constructed for visitors to take home souvenirs made in the district. Koseli Ghar consists of many items built of wood and other local materials that reflect the local Tharu culture and tradition. Items ranging from traditional Nepali caps to shoes are kept at the house. Other consumable products such as honey, rice, beaten rice, are also at display, while the traditional kukuri provides a special attraction. It is felt that the local authority now should take the lead in the promotion of such souvenir house to promote local skills and eventually contribute towards economic enhancement of the rural municipalities. This is Pratik Rimal for Kantipur News Desk.
And that's all for this hour. Keep watching Kantipur Television SD for more news and entertainment. Have a good day.